Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Gardening with One Knee and Zone 5B. My name is Janelle and I'm here to help take the intimidation out of gardening, maybe help get you started in growing a few things that you enjoy to eat, maybe even preserving. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I had been debating on investing in a freeze dryer for a long time, and I was always on the fence about it, but I was always oohing and eyeing over it. I thought, boy, that would be nice. That would be nice. And in January, I took the plunge and I invested in a small Harvet Right Freeze Dryer. It comes as a big kit. It had a vacuum pump, it had the oil, it had the bag sealer, it had a couple sizes of bags, I think, or maybe just one size. It had some oxygen absorbers and a little booklet, of course, you know, like how to do things. I've done freeze-dried chili before and it's turned out wonderful. I'm down to about 4 bags, so I want to make some more. And as if this isn't easy enough where I can just open these jars, dump it in a pot, heat it up, and it's chili. But I'm a princess, and it's also very, very nice to have it all cooked in the bag where you just rip open the bag, toss the oxygen absorber, and add about 1/3 of a cup to, or no, I'm sorry, 3/4 of a cup to a cup of boiling water. Close it up, let it sit for about 5 minutes, and wow, you got chili. So I'm going to show you how I did it the last time. And this I'm showing you because, you know, not everybody has a freeze dryer because they are a little bit pricey. But if somebody offers you food that's freeze dried, I'm going to show you the process on how it's made so that maybe you're not as intimidated on trying it. I've done spaghetti this way. I've also done eggs, like scrambled eggs, and candy. Like I said, I've only had it since January, so I'm still learning the machine, learning the times, the temperatures, because all the cookbooks and the instruction manuals, they just, I don't know, I'm so technical and analytical that I like to see the steps and I like to know times. I want to know temperatures. I want to know this, that, the other thing. And this is all kind of like, yeah, approximately 24 to 48 hours. But when I made the chili the last time, what I do is I cook it down, I let it cool, I put it into containers, I freeze it overnight or for a day, and then I load it into the freeze dryer, and then it takes about 34 hours from that point, and then it's done. So I'm gonna just show you kind of like how I do this. Now, you know, this was something that I pressure canned. This is ground beef, and I browned it up with onion. I drained off as much of the fat as I could, and I blotted it with paper towel, but there is still some residual fat in here. Now, this isn't all fat because you can kind of see the top of the meat right here. There's no fat on that. So this is just a little bit residual, and this is probably the amount that would be in your bowl of chili or in your pot of chili anyway. So this is just ground beef with onion that I had pressure canned February of last year. To that, I'm gonna add 2 pints of my tomato juice. This was just hot water bath canning. Kind of an easy process. At the end of the summer when I'm getting tomatoes and it's not really enough to make like another batch of something, I'll just cook it down and I'll make tomato juice. In fact, I kind of just make my tomato juice all at the end of the year for when the tomatoes are coming in kind of sporadic instead of, you know, just beating me up. Also, I was going to say, this jar is 1 pound of ground beef. So keep that in mind. The other thing I'll add to my chili is kidney beans, red kidney beans. These I pressure canned also because this is not an acidic food. So it has to get pressure canned where tomatoes are acidic so they can go through a hot water bath. I'm going to open these up, put them in a colander, which you can kind of see back there. And I'm going to rinse them because that's what you do anyway when you buy cans of red kidney beans. These I bought as a dried bean, rehydrated them, cooked them, and canned them. And then I'm also going to use some chili powder. This looks like the last of it. This should be enough for a batch. I usually add like 3 to 4 tablespoons or like a 1/4 cup of it. I think actually when I first found this recipe, it said add a 1/4 cup, and I think I just started using tablespoons. But anyway, I think I'll probably be using this up and then I'll make some more. And then I like my chili with spaghetti in it. So I'll be cooking up some spaghetti in this other little pot of water. So I'm gonna open up these jars and I'm gonna rinse these and I'll come right back and I'll show you the next steps. Okie dokie, we've got the beans rinsed and I'm just gonna show you what they look like. Not much different than what you would buy in a store. When you can beans, they kind of develop this goo around them, and that's what you want to rinse away. It's very starchy. And remember, beans are a really good source of protein. So let's get started here. I'm going to open up my tomato juice. All I'm doing is this. And it leaves a little dent in the lid. Ugh, it's dripping. I don't know if we can see that little dent. But anyway, that's why I don't use these again, is because this has been compromised. It's not flat anymore, so it's really no good to reuse. So we're just going to dump this in. Might as well put some heat on. Let's open up the next one. There we go. Dump this one in. Ooh. And remember, these jars that I'm opening up, I'm going to be reusing year after year after year until they break or become flawed in some way. There we go. Whenever you hear that seal kind of breaking, that's a good sign. That's what you want to hear. And you kind of always want to give a sniff. This smells like ground up browned hamburger. So let's get this out. Well, I'll show you here. See, the fat really isn't on the top. So even though it shows that there's that much fat, it's not. It's just kind of like, it just collected around the glass there. So, and I just used onion to season, and then I used a little bit of beef broth during the canning process. Nothing too earth-shaking. All right, so we've got that in there. Well, there's that. Let me get a stirrer like this. And as this heats up, this is going to kind of break this meat apart. Like that. And I'm going to add my beans just a little bit later. But I am going to add my seasoning. So remember, I want to add about 3 to 4 tablespoons. 1, 2, almost 3, almost 4. So just about enough for a whole batch. I'm not going to worry about that little amount that I didn't have. There's still going to be plenty of seasoning here. There we go. Going to get that mixed in. Just like that. You want those spices to kind of meld together with the rest of the chili. I'm going to get my water boiling for my noodles. Poof. And then once this gets hot, I'm going to go ahead and add the beans. I find that if I add beans to my chili too soon, they kind of start to break apart just from the stirring motion. So I add them towards the end and let it, cook a little longer, and they'll heat through. So once we get to the point of adding the beans and probably the noodles, I will come back to you, okay? Okay, everybody, noodles are cooked, drained, and I did rinse them because you want to get rid of the extra starch. So I'm just going to add those here to the chili. That. It's kind of a lot of noodles. Maybe I overshot the noodles, but I like noodles. All right, there we go. Just going to kind of stir those in. This way, some of the spice can penetrate the pasta. I've always made chili with macaroni. I've never done the macaroni in the freeze dryer yet. I know this method works, so I'm going to stick to this for a while until I get a few more batches under my belt. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add the beans, just like that. And get them in there just to heat through. At this point, they're not going to be on the stove too long, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then what I'll do is I will take this and I'll put this on a like a trivet or something over there to cool. This is one of those heavy bottom stainless steel kettles. So it holds the heat for a long time. So it's going to take a long time for this to cool down. When it cools down, I will be distributing it into 4 containers that I can put in the freezer. I do want it to be fully cool because if I put something warm in the freezer, it's going to thaw out the things around it a little bit. So I don't want that. So I want it absolutely cool. And maybe I will even have to refrigerate it overnight, just to kind of slowly bring that temperature down. The other thing I was going to show you, this is one of my last bags that I made. I get these bags from PackFreshUSA, and it's kind of got a pleated bottom there. So I just put my food portion in here, my little instructions, just to add a 1/2 cup to a cup of boiling water, the date, and there's an oxygen absorber in here and a portion of chili. So in a pinch, I can just boil up some water and add it to this, and I have a meal just like that. I won't have any dirty dishes because I could get rid of this. I can eat right out of this if I even wanted. These are kind of handy, say for example, if you're camping, or maybe you're going like on an overnight fishing trip and you're counting on having fish but then don't have fish. You can bring some of these along on your camping trip and just have this. Just thought I would show you that. This is the portion size. I will get 8 portions, I believe, out of this amount of chili. So hopefully that kind of, gets you up to speed here as the steps that I take. I'm just using things I've already preserved to put in here, showing you the end result a little bit. And then I'll let this heat through. I'll let it cool down, refrigerate it so that it is cold. I'll put it in the freezer for 12 to 24 hours, and then I will put it in the freeze dryer. And then that process, the last time it took 34 hours. So it's kind of one of those things where once it gets in the freeze dryer, you can go about your business and do whatever you want because that'll run. And when it starts to chirp, you go down there and you check it to see if there's any spots that feel like they're not fully freeze dried, and then you add a little bit more time maybe. So anyway, just wanted to share what I do to get it to the point, to get it frozen, and then put in the freeze dryer. You always want to freeze your items that have this much liquid first, because then it's not going to really splatter on the inside of the freeze dryer. Sometimes that can happen, and it might just be because of the certain foods that happens to, but I've always just frozen my food ahead of time, put in the freeze dryer, and I don't have any splattery mess. So I will touch base with you again when I start dividing it up into my little portions to cool down and probably refrigerate tonight. Okay, we're to the point now where the chili is pretty cool. I mean, I've been stirring it off and on, and there's not too much steam left coming off. So I feel like it's safe enough to put in these containers. So all I really do is I go scoop by scoop. So I'm like, a scoop for you, a scoop for you, a scoop for you. I kind of shake it to wiggle it so that it goes flat. And a scoop for you. All right, let's go back down the list. Scoop for you. Trying to keep this as even as possible. Oh, come on. A scoop for you. Scoop for you. As I'm doing this also, I'm trying to make sure like not one container has got like 4 beans in. Oops, we're gonna have to do 2 scoops here because that was a little one. There we go. All right, so kind of do this. And we're gonna go right back down the line here. This is gonna be a little bit more juice. Scoop for you. Let's see here. Scoop for you. Oh, scoop for you. And a scoop for you. And this one here, I'm just going to give a little bit more juice. Juice in a bean. And I've got a little bit more juice in here, so I'm just going to pick one that doesn't seem to have as much juice as the other ones. I would say maybe this one here. I can do it that way. And I can put a little bit here too. All right. So now that I have this part done, like I mentioned before, I just kind of wiggle them so that they flatten out nice. Like that. I'm gonna let them cool on the counter here. I will cover them up with the lids. Kind of nice because then the lids stack. And then I'll put them in the freezer, or I'll put them in the fridge so that they fully cool down, and I'll probably move them into the freezer before work tomorrow, and then I'll let them freeze all day. I'll probably even fire up the freeze dryer tomorrow night and get the whole process going. It's a 34-hour process. Wait, tomorrow's Thursday. Friday is when I'm gonna fire up the freeze dryer so that it's running while I'm home, and I can run down there if it chirps at me. So that's where we're at right now. So you saw me use things that I've canned to make the chili. You saw me make the chili. You saw me cool down the chili, and you saw me portion it out. This is just gonna cool down, and then it's gonna go in the freezer. Stay tuned for the next part. Good morning, it's Friday. Welcome back to my channel, Gardening with One Knee in Zone 5B. My name is Janelle, and I'm here to take the intimidation out of gardening and maybe help propel you onto a path of food independence. Today I'm going to be finishing up the chili. Now, earlier in the video you saw me open up some jars of things that I preserved and make a batch of chili, and then I had to freeze it before I get to this step. This is a freeze dryer. This is the Harvet Right Freeze Dryer in a small size. When I decided to get a freeze dryer, I knew the space that I had, and it had to be the small. It's just, I don't have enough clearance for the medium. This is the only place that it's gonna fit in my house. So it's got 4 shelves. It comes with 4 trays, I'll show you. Like this. You can buy tray covers, like lids. They're kind of expensive for me right now, so that's something I might invest in down the road. So what I'm just gonna do is I just plugged it in. I don't leave it plugged in all the time. My house runs on solar, so anything that stays plugged in that's not in use even draws what they call phantom power, so that adds to the electric bill. So down here in the basement, I'm not down here that often, so the only thing that's plugged in here nonstop is the water softener mechanisms. I keep the wash machine unplugged, the dryer unplugged, the freeze dryer unplugged, the fan that cools the pump for the freeze dryer. I'll show you this. So right here, this is the pump that comes with the freeze dryer, and then this is just a fan that I have set up to keep the pump a little bit cool during the whole process. So what I'm going to be doing right now is just booting up the freeze dryer. It takes about 15 minutes to get to the ready phase, and then I can load it with the food. So I'm just going to make sure I close the door. There's a switch on the back, like that. And it's kind of like a computerized little gadget. So there's going to be a computer part here that's going to come on. And you can kind of see I've got some things taped here. Those are my times that I've used and that have worked in the past for things that I have freeze dried. So I'm just gonna kind of follow my little cheat sheet here and set the program. So I'm gonna zoom in here and take a look here. So this is when I did eggs. This is when I did spaghetti and chili. So I want it at -10. That's what the little display says. It's a fancy little computer in there. And then I'm gonna want it at 12 hours of extra freeze time. So I'm just bringing this up to 12, and temperature, I leave at 125. Extra dry time, I don't need any. So I'm gonna, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna save these settings like that. And I'm gonna start it. And you can hear it kind of kick in. So on this display here, it says wait 15 minutes before loading trays. So I am going to just let this hum along for about 15 minutes. I'm going to go get my chili out of the freezer and I'm going to bring it down. And I already washed up my trays last night. And I'm going to just kind of put it on these little trays here that I have laid out. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to come back in a little bit, okay? I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I went upstairs and I got my containers of chili. They are super frozen, which is what you want. I have a couple sitting in the sink here right now in some warm water, just to kind of warm up the bottom so that I can get them out onto the trays real easily. So all I really did was kind of do this just to kind of soften up the bottom. And now I can kind of peel it away from the side a little bit. And now I can feel like it's going to be moving. So I'm wiping off the moisture on the bottom. And then I'm just going to flip it out onto the tray. That's all I'm really doing. I'm just going to kind of loosen it up. There we go. And flip it out onto the tray. Get this one in there with water. I rarely ever use this sink before I got a freeze dryer, so it's kind of nice. And as I'm taking these out of the sink, I'm being careful that the water doesn't drip on any of the open ones. I kind of have a method in there. So then I just kind of loosen this up. Like that. There we go. Let's see if this one's been in here long enough just to kind of soften up. Oh, yep, I think so. So, there we go. All right, so I've got little frozen bricks of chili. This one here is kind of a little higher. I might have problems with that one. So let's just go ahead and check the time. It's at 18 minutes, so it's been running for about 15. That's good. I'm gonna plug in my fan. And I'm gonna move you so that you can see me loading the trays here. Let's see here. I'm gonna have to put you on a stand here, one moment. All right, so here I'm just gonna show you the screen here real quick. I'm not sure if it comes in clear on the camera, but it says load trays into freeze dryer, close drain valve. And I can hit continue. The drain valve is this little piece here, so I'm gonna close it. And I'm gonna set you back over here. Open my door. And I'm going to load these. Just like that. There we go. There we go. Let's see if this one goes in okay. Oh, it does. I thought it was going to be a little too high. So now I'm just closing the door like it tells me to, and I'm going to hit continue. All right. And right now it's going to go into a freezing stage. Just because of how everything is set, this is going to run for, I'm going to guess, another like 34 hours, just like the last batch. So today is Friday morning before 7, Saturday morning. So, and I work until noon on Saturday. So this should be finishing up right when I finish work, which is going to be kind of cool. When it finishes up, you're going to be kind of surprised at what it looks like. If you've never had anything that's been freeze dried before, you're going to be kind of surprised, and I can't wait to show you that part. So we're going to let this do its magic for 34 hours, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Just a little freeze dryer update. It's been about 13 hours since I loaded the freeze dryer this morning. You can see there's some condensation here, so I'm just going to kind of get that off of there so that you can see things a little bit better. Right now the inside is at minus 44. You can see that in the upper right hand corner, so it's still in the freezing cycle. And then I'm not sure if you can really see the food itself, it really hasn't changed shape, so you know it hasn't melted or anything. It's still in that little brick that I put in there. So hopefully tomorrow afternoon sometime this will be done and I can show you even more. Welcome back, everybody. When I got done with work today, I wasn't hearing the little chirp, but now I am. Did you hear that? So that means that the freeze dryer thinks that however I program things and from what I've loaded, that it's done. So I'm going to kind of open up the drain valve to release the vacuum so I can open the door and check on the product. I'm making sure that I don't feel cool spots within each of those bricks of chili. If there are some cool spots, then it just has to go in for a couple more hours of drying time. So we'll see. All right, let's take a look. So this is the chili, and that's nice. Tray number 2. I'm just gonna, nice. Where do I put all this? There we go. Tray number 3. That's perfect. No cool spots. It's all uniform temperature. And same with this one. All right, so I can let this guy relax. I'm gonna put no defrost. The no defrost here, that just kind of lets it defrost on its own and then drain. I can use the electronic defrost, kind of like the mechanism in your defrosting type of a freezer, but I'm just going to do this one. Just wait for it. See, now it kind of kicked out. So now I can shut the freeze dryer off. I'm going to give it a break for probably the rest of the weekend. I can shut my little fan off that I have running to cool the pump here, and then we'll go upstairs and we'll start packaging this stuff. So whenever you take things out of a freeze dryer, you don't want to let it expose to the air too long. Otherwise it starts to gain moisture. We're gonna bag it up, we're gonna put oxygen absorbers in. I'll show you that when we go upstairs. All right, everybody, welcome back. I didn't realize the camera wasn't recording. I started breaking these up. Sorry about that. But anyway, I'm at the point right now where I'm gonna get ready to package these. And I'm using these, they call them gusset Mylar bags. I get these from PackFreshUSA. They're a company out of Ontario, California, so it's a product made and distributed here in the United States. They've given me actually a code for you to use, so if you're interested in ordering, you can get 8% off by using the code 1NE5B. So check out their website. They have lots of things. I just pre-labeled my Mylar bag. They also sell oxygen absorbers, and whenever you buy oxygen absorbers, these are from PackFresh, but no matter where you buy them from, see if you can get them in packages of 10, because if all 100 of these were loose, the minute I open this, they're all exposed to air. And today I'm only going to be using 7, and I'm going to put the remaining 3 in the little glass jar to preserve them. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. So this is 10 bags of 10, and these are 100 cc. And then this is kind of how they send the bags. This is their logo in case you go out there to take a look. This is the large size. So this is silver on one side and clear on the other. So I use these when I do taffy so that you can see the taffy. It just looks a little bit more appealing. And this was $24.99 for a package of 100. So go check out their website, PackFreshUSA. I'll leave a link in my description for you too. Anyway, let's move on to this, because one thing with freeze-dried food, when it comes out of the freeze dryer, you don't want it exposed to air too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to package this up, and I'm waiting for some water to boil. I'm going to save one of these portions, and I'll show you what it looks like rehydrated. So this right here is the chili. It's like foam, and that's normal. That's the way it's supposed to be. I just wanted to kind of show you that. See, it's the noodles that are kind of hanging it together. So anyway, I'm just going to package these up here. I know I've packaged this before, so I know that half of a pan is like one portion. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this. Let's get you guys in here. And this actually took about 36 hours this time, but it might be because I kind of went overboard on the noodles. I can't help myself sometimes. So I'm just gonna kind of package it up like this. Here's another one. Get that all in there. There's another one. So it's kind of cool that it's just so, it's so much like styrofoam. The freeze dryer is defrosting right now, and it's going to take a couple hours for it to do that. The water that drains out of it, though, it smells like chili water. Kind of cool. So I'll go ahead and package that up. And I know it doesn't seem like, it seems like there's a lot of space in here, but remember, if you're going to eat right out of this bag, you have to have room for some water. And then I'm going to drop my oxygen absorber in there. I think I've got one more bag here. It's kind of cool. So let's see here. I'll just use like part of that one there for reconstituting. So let's get that there. That there. And I just brought out a bowl. I'm going to show you how it looks when it's reconstituted. Oh, there's my water. One moment, please. Here, my little yellow teapot. Let's get that away from the heat. This I'm just gonna kind of set aside for now, because my main concern is to get oxygen absorber in the bag and get them closed up. So these are oxygen absorbers. Like I said, this is a package of 10. I got these from PackFreshUSA. I made the mistake a long time ago. Well, I shouldn't say a long time ago, but I made this mistake before where I ordered oxygen absorbers and all 100 were in one bag. So that's all I'm doing, just popping these in the bags. So I have 7 bags. I should have 3 left. It also comes with this little like detector thing. So when this changes colors, then you know it's been exposed to air. So I'm going to get these leftovers in this little jar here. I pick a little jar just because then there's less air in here to mess with the oxygen absorbers. So let's try to get these in there. I hope they'll fit. Oh yeah, they will. There. And then when I open this jar, or any jar that I've ever used in the past, it might be a little bit hard at first, but that's just because all the oxygen is sucked out by a little bit of those oxygen absorbers. So we'll set that aside. Now, let's get these bags closed up. We just have a little Ziploc thing here. I'm going to squeeze some of the air out, just so that there's less work for the oxygen absorber to do. There we go. This sealer comes with the freeze dryer. So then what you do is you just seal it. I'll show you that in a little bit here. Moving right along. Here we go. There. They say these are good for 25 years. So I don't know if I'll be alive in 25 years, but it's kind of nice to know I'll have food that all I have to do is add some water. Like I said, I've already eaten these right out of the bag just to see how easy it is. It is. So if you were going hunting or camping and you were, being outside overnight, you could easily take these along. They're real lightweight. All right, so we've got these. Let's set that down. I'm going to start reconstituting this. So I just boiled some water. Little yellow tea kettle. This is a 1 cup measuring cup, and in my past experience, it takes about 3/4 of a cup. So I just am going to pour this on here. I hope you can see how this is kind of like collapsing a little bit. Remember, I want these noodles to be rehydrated. I want the beans to be rehydrated. So I am just gonna let this sit for a little while so that those noodles and beans get rehydrated. And now I'm just gonna show you real quick here how this sealer works. Let's just set this aside, set these over here. And sorry, got some water here because I'm not really good at pouring water, I guess. Who knew? All right, so I just kind of have the camera set up just because I want you to be able to see the whole, how things work. So I'm just gonna plug this in. And it doesn't really take too long for the hot part here to heat up. So then all you do, you can see they have these little nicks in here. This is where you would tear it open. So I want my seal to be above that. So I'm just gonna do this. There. Now you can see it's got the seal now going across the top. And that's all I'm gonna really do with these. It goes really, really fast. Plus there's only 7 of them. Once you do the first couple bags, you know where to line it up. See, this one's a little bit crooked, but it still made it all the way to the end. This way, if this first seal pops open, it's not going to be harmed because the bag itself is sealed. I'd like to think that I took care on sealing the bags. They all felt like they sealed, so I don't think I'll have a problem that way, but you never know when they get handled and moved around and stuff. That seal could easily pop open, I guess. But these are such nice sturdy bags. I really like these. I have ordered bags off of Amazon and they have sharp corners where these are rounded. So I won't poke my eye out. I don't know. But they're rounded corners, so they're not real sharp and pointy. And I noticed that when I had the bags from Amazon, I was like, ooh, these are kind of sharp and pointy. I don't know if I like that, but you know, I didn't know about this company at that time. There's all sorts of different size bags, all sorts. They have them like where you can line a 5-gallon bucket. And then of course you would use a larger oxygen absorber. So there we go. Those are all sealed and ready for about 25 years. So let's take a look at this. Ooh, it's steamy hot. So the reason why I wanted to show you this is if anybody offers you freeze-dried food, that's what to expect. It's supposed to be foamy and brittle, no moisture because it's all been sucked out. And then all you got to do is add hot water. And this looks like it's really, really hot. So let me just see. I might regret doing this. Oh, that's good. I'm probably going to add some cheddar cheese on this to finish it for my supper. But anyway, there you go, folks. This is how we go about freeze drying chili. Takes a couple days because you gotta cook the chili, portion it out, freeze it, and then it's a longer process in the freeze dryer. But once you set the machine and you just do it, whatever you need to do that day or the next 2 days. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. If you do ever get the chance to try freeze-dried food, that's what to expect. And if you do invest in a freeze dryer, you can try this method and see if it works for you. This method took about 2.5 hours longer than my first batch. I'm not upset, it all turned out yet. So thanks for watching. Please like, follow, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, and thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.